Hey everybody, I am just so thankful um, for this assignment. I think that I've learned a lot from it. And I am just thankful also for you guys clicking on it. Whether you had to or not, I promise that this presentation will be super informative and help you guys better understand maybe what this syndrome is, and maybe you are going to encounter it later in your life, whether through having your own children or through being some kind of leader or minister in some kind of situation. You might encounter this. So hopefully this will better equip us for just how to minister to people better, and just how to love people better, and how we are to love others who maybe suffer from this kind of disorder. With that being said, I'm going to be covering Turner syndrome, and here is what it looks like. So, what is Turner syndrome? Turner syndrome is a condition that only affects females. So, males are not um, cannot contract this disorder. Um, the condition results when one of the X chromosomes um, that are apparent in females, and females have two X chromosomes, or as we might call them, sex chromosomes, are missing or partially missing. And the effects of this condition can result in short height, heart defects, and for the ovaries to not fully develop. Now, who discovered it? Dr. Henry Hunter discovered the condition in 1938. Now, he did this while studying a group of 7 girls who all had physical features that were abnormal. Now, these 7 girls, one adult and 6 children, all aged differently. Now, some of them were from ages 15 to 23, while the adult was a little bit up in her age. But all of these females exhibited unusual symptoms that were not like anything previously reported, anything that he had seen in the science field before, and just studying people and studying their attributes. The history of Turner syndrome has been better equipped since 1938. Ever since then, we've been able to document who has the symptoms and who has the syndrome. Um, and so, since then, it has been discovered that 1 in every 2,000 female births have the chance of occurring in them, and have the chance of getting Turner syndrome. Now, when is this disorder diagnosed? Females who are diagnosed with this disorder usually are observed at birth. Nothing before that. Usually at birth is when they are able to see some of the prominent features of Turner disorder. Now, they can either see this through a webbed neck, a broad chest, or through detected heart problems that are seen at the time of birth. Another feature that might be prominent also is the swelling of feet and hands. Now, the sex chromosome that causes the condition, as previously mentioned, the chromosome that is affected from this disorder is the sex chromosomes. Females have two X chromosomes, as opposed to a male, which has an X and a Y chromosome. Females have two X's. Now, Turner syndrome occurs when one or parts of those chromosomes are missing. So, some potential tests and procedures. However, it comes to seeing if the child has Turner syndrome at birth, there are a couple ways to see if they have it before birth. So, like I said in the previous slide, Turner syndrome is usually determined at birth. At birth is usually the time in which the doctors and parents are able to see the webbed neck, the heart defect, if maybe the child has some kind of swelling of feet or hands, usually this is the time in which they see it. However, if the parent is potentially concerned or potentially thinks that their genetics might throw off the baby, they can observe it in two ways. Observe it through ultrasound, which honestly is not 100% accurate, so we shouldn't go by ultrasound. But in ultrasound, we can potentially see the webbed neck. Second is through a blood test of the baby. The blood test of the baby is the most certain one, and if the parents want a more prominent test and to see if it works, this is the one that they would want us to look at. However, as raredisease.org says, the optimal time to determine risks and discuss prenatal testing is prior to pregnancy. People with questions about genetic testing and reinsurance risks are strongly encouraged to speak with a genetic counselor or other genetic professionals. This is something that they, if they are concerned about, or if they are strongly needing tests, they should do it prior to the pregnancy, prior to conception, prior to talks about having a baby. These are great things, great resources if a parent is concerned for that. Now, in the state of Missouri, Turner syndrome is not included in test screenings for the baby, so Turner syndrome has no place in the hospital screenings. Now, how does one get/inherit Turner syndrome? Most cases of Turner syndrome are not inherited. Most actually occur randomly when a male and female sperm and egg happen to lose a sex chromosome at conception. So whenever that happens, there's kind of just a loss of that chromosome. It just breaks off. There is in each cell that missing half or missing part of the chromosome. In very rare situations, however, Turner syndrome may, as raredisease.org actually talks about, Turner syndrome may be caused by a missing piece, a partial deletion of the X chromosome. A detection can be inherited from a parent. This is something that can be inherited if the female has some kind of partial deletion of their X chromosome. Some signs and symptoms of Turner disease are as followed. Now, these are some of the basic, most foundational kind of telltale signs of somebody who has Turner disease. Now, if somebody were to exhibit this syndrome, right, if they were to have this syndrome and have it for a long period of time, there might be some other things that come of it, that come because they have the syndrome, such as diabetes, a couple of other things that might happen to them over time. However, these are just kind of the telltale signs of if somebody has Turner syndrome in general. So some of these are wide neck, broad chest and widely placed nipples, short stature, non-functioning ovaries, heart problems, high blood pressure, and kidney problems. These are just some of the telltale signs of somebody who has Turner syndrome. Living with Turner syndrome. The timetable for those who have Turner syndrome are usually pretty good. Life expectancy is only a little bit declined for the chance of having a chronic illness or obesity. This is something that I was explaining in the last slide. Because somebody has Turner syndrome, there are some things that can happen over time because of the syndrome. They can inhabit, or they can have other things. They could be more at risk for other things like obesity, chronic illness, all of this kind of stuff. And this is why their life expectancy might be just a little bit declined. But here's the good news: if regular checkups seem to have positive signs for increasing the life expectancy of the females with this disorder. So if somebody is checking up constantly, there are good signs of them increasing their life expectancy. Although there is no cure for Turner syndrome, there are some treatments that help minimize the effects of the syndrome. Now, some of the effects of the symptoms here are seen as human growth hormones, if given in early childhood. All of these, by the way, these two references here are a really good website if you guys want to check out more information about Turner syndrome. This comes from the National Institute of Child Health.org. It's a great resource. I found out a lot of great things about this. Now, the two ways in which we can help minimize the effects of the symptoms is human growth hormones. If given at an early childhood, hormone injections can often increase adult height by a few inches. So one of the biggest symptoms with Turner syndrome is the short stature. If the female is given a hormone injection at a young age, this might increase the height. Also, estrogen replacement therapy, or ERT. ERT can help start the secondary sexual development that normally begins at puberty. This is around age 12. This includes breast development and the development of wider hips. Some of these things that are abnormal in the physical features of females who experience Turner syndrome. Health care providers may prescribe a combination of estrogen and progestrogen to girls who haven't started menstruating by age 15. ERT also provides protection against bone loss. All of these things, these two things, can help with the symptoms and help minimize the effect of the symptoms of Turner syndrome. Now, if someone is looking for more information on this condition, today there are plenty of resources out there to help you learn more about this disorder for future ministry application and for learning how to love people better. One of the resources that is just a fantastic resource for understanding anything about the Turner syndrome is actually the Turner Syndrome Society of the United States. This website has plenty of interaction and learning about Turner syndrome and what it is and how people can live with it. How are people to live with this syndrome? It also has times and events for raising money for future research for the disorder, and it is a great place to understand and better communicate and better interact with this community. If any of you are to experience maybe children or friends who have children with Turner syndrome, this is a great resource and just a great place to go to understand it better. A couple of other resources that might help understand, and which are great resources for our Turner syndrome, Know Your Body, as a free book online that you can go and download right now if you wanted to, and just kind of look into the intricacies of what somebody with Turner syndrome has and goes through. There's also a very helpful video. If it's a 3-minute video on YouTube that gives the kind of the basics of the disorder. It's a really good, just informative video that is also very pleasing to the eye. It's a really good video that will help you. It's a 3-minute video too, which is really nice. It'll help you just better understand what it is Turner syndrome is. And also just a book another book that says that's Tina Talks Turner. Is it a book that helps girls understand their diagnosis? So for girls to kind of better understand what they are going through and how they are seen and who they are in the sense of the diagnosis. But to better understand really what Turner syndrome is, we need to look at it from a ministry perspective. Now, the ministry model for those who have Turner syndrome is honestly astonishing, and it should be seen as a true inspiration, because maybe some of you might feel uncomfortable with maybe ministering to somebody who has Turner syndrome because they might be different than you. But honestly, I think that this information right here is really, really good. Regardless of the disorder, the person who you are serving should be viewed as a person. I think that their disorder should be not disregarded. The disorder should be embraced, that they are who they are. God made them to be perfect in His image, and God is going to glorify. I think it's just an amazing and beautiful thing that God is going to glorify Him through all of us, through our whole being. He's going to use all of us to glorify Him through our different gifts and unique features, whatever that is. Whether that's being somebody who has Turner syndrome, being somebody who has Tourette's, being somebody who has Down syndrome. God is going to use those features and those abilities and those disorders and syndromes and whatever it is to glorify Him. And I think that brings sheer joy and excitement, and honestly, it shows how God is a beautiful God who is going to bring His children under the same family together. Everyone is going to be together. This is a reminder that there is something bigger at play, that God wants us, that He has given us, to point to the one thing that gives us true worth and identity. True worth and identity through Jesus, that we might embrace Him through our servitude and through our love for others. And we might know that we are worthy of God's love. No matter who we are all His children. And this is some great news for those who need His love, that anybody is welcome into His family. These are all the references that I use for this PowerPoint. I just want to thank you guys for watching. I thank you for just hopping on and learning more about Turner syndrome, but more importantly, how we are to love people, how we are to see people for who they are, and what God has made them to be. God has made them to be invited and their identity to be transformed through knowing Jesus. That is who they are. They are followers of Christ. They are servants of Christ. And whatever God has gifted them, God has given them, He's going to use that to glorify Him. And I think that this is something that we can use to help us better understand how to minister to anybody. So with that being said, I thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.